If you want to stop overpaying on your cloud infrastructure and recover money that is quietly leaving your AWS account every single month, you need to understand how the first number you ever saw on your bill is still controlling every decision you make today. I am a data engineer. I have worked directly on cloud infrastructure in enterprise environments and saved significant money doing it. And what I have learned is that most cloud waste does not come from bad engineering decisions. It comes from decisions that were never questioned again after the first time they were made. Before I walk you through exactly how this happens, I want to explain what anchoring bias is and why it matters more than almost any other concept in cloud cost management. Anchoring bias is the tendency to rely too heavily on the first piece of information you encounter when making decisions. Every number that comes after it gets measured against the first number, not against reality. Here's a simple example. You walk into a shop and see a jacket priced at $500. Next to it is another jacket for $200. The $200 jacket feels like a bargain. Even if $200 is expensive for a jacket, the $500 anchor made $200 feel reasonable. Now here's the question. What if nobody had shown you the $500 jacket first? That is anchoring bias, and it is running in your AWS bill right now. So here's why you need to care about this. Because the first AWS bill your company ever received became the anchor for every bill that followed. Not what the bill should be, not what companies at your stage typically spend, just what did we pay last month. And as the bill grew gradually from $8,000 to $10,000 to $14,000 to $18,000, each new number became the anchor for the next one. Every increase felt like normal growth because it was only significantly higher than the number you were already anchored. The FinOps Foundation State of FinOps 2026 report found that companies without structured cost management waste between 32 to 40% of their cloud budget. On an $18,000 monthly bill, that is between $5,760 and $7,200 leaving your account every single month for no business reason. That waste feels invisible because the anchor normalized it before you ever thought to question it. Let me walk you through the 8 ways anchoring bias is costing you money right now and exactly what to do about each one. Number 1, the original instance types that nobody ever changed. You provisioned a DB of a 2x large at launch because you were planning for growth. The bill for that database became the anchor. Let us say $560 per month. 12 months later, your database averages 11% CPU utilization. But nobody has questioned the instant type because $560 has felt normal since day one. The anchor is doing its job. It is keeping you from seeing that you're paying for capacity you are not using. The right question is not, is this bill similar to the last month? The right question is, what does this workload actually need today? Right size to a DB T3 large, no cost, around $140 per month. That is $420 every month required from a single decision that was never revisited. The fix, run AWS Compute Optimizer on every RDS instance quarterly. It tells you what the workload actually needs based on real usage, not what you anticipated when you provisioned it. Number 2, the development environment anchored to production cost. Your dev environment was built to mirror production for consistency. Seemed reasonable at that time. The cost is $3,200 per month became the anchor for what a development environment costs at your company. Nobody compared it to what it should cost. Nobody asked whether 8 engineers who work business hours 5 days a week actually need production-sized infrastructure running 168 hours a week. The anchor made $3,200 feel like the cost of running a dev environment. It is not. It is the cost of running a dev environment with no scheduling and no right sizing. Schedule it to shut down at 7 p.m. and restart at 8 a.m. on weekdays. Right size the instance for actual developer workloads. New cost around $800 per month. That is $2,400 every month recovered. The fix, treat dev and production as completely separate cost conversations. Never let production sizing become the anchor for non-production environments. Number 3, the premium service anchored as the standard. A startup chose Amazon Aurora for an internal analytics tool because the team was familiar with it and it felt like the safe choice. Monthly cost around $800. That became the anchor for database costs at that company. Nobody asked whether an internal tool with low traffic and no high availability requirement actually needed Aurora. The anchor $800 felt like what database cost. The same workloads run perfectly on a standard RDS instances cost $120 per month. The $680 difference is the anchor tax, what you pay every month for a decision that felt right once and was never questioned again. The fix, every 6 months, ask one question about every managed services. Does the workload still justify this tier, or did we choose it because it was the default when we started? Number 4, the data transfer bill that always looked about the same. First month on AWS included $400 in data transfer cost. Every month since it has been between $380 to $450. Feels stable, feels normal, the anchor held. What the anchor prevented anyone from asking? Why are services in the same region talking to each other through NAT gateway instead of VPC endpoints? NAT gateway charges $0.045 per GB processed. 4 VPC endpoints for S3, Dynamo, SQS and SQL Manager cost $7.30 each per month. Those 4 endpoints eliminate the majority of inter-service data transfer costs for a typical digital health backend. The anchor made $400 per month feel like a fixed cost. It is not. It is a configuration cost, and the configuration takes an afternoon to fix. The fix, pull your data transfer line item in Cost Explorer and break it down by source and destination. If the majority is between the service in the same region, you have a NAT gateway problem that VPC endpoint solves. Number 5, the SageMaker endpoint anchored as the cost of machine learning inference. Healthcare AI team provisioned a real-time inference endpoint on a GPU instance. Monthly cost $730. That became the anchor for what machine learning inference costs at this company. Nobody asked whether the clinical workflow actually need real-time inference responses within milliseconds, or whether it would work equally well with asynchronous batch processing, where responses arrive within minutes. For most diagnostic support tools, batch processing serves the clinical outcome just as well. Cost around $80 per month. The $650 difference is the anchor tax on a single architectural assumption that was never tested against actual clinical requirements. The fix, for every machine learning endpoint, ask one question. Does the clinical workflow fail if the response takes 5 minutes instead of 5 milliseconds? The answer is no, you have a batch processing candidate. Number 6, the Redshift cluster anchored at full provision cost. Provision at launch for an anticipated analyst team of 10 people. The team is currently 3 people. The cluster runs 24 hours a day. The monthly cost $1,800. That number became the anchor for what Redshift costs. The actual analyst query window is approximately 4 to 5 hours per day on weekdays. The cluster runs 168 hours per week. Analysts use it for roughly 250 hours per week. The other 143 hours are the anchor tags. Schedule pause and resume with EventBridge. No effective cost, around $270 per month for actual usage hours. Saving $1,530 every month. The fix, pull CloudWatch metrics for your Redshift cluster. Look at query activity by hour. Build your schedule around the real usage pattern, not the anticipated one. Number 7, the storage tier anchored to what you choose at launch. At launch, everything into S3 standard because it was the default, nobody thought about it. The storage bill became the anchor. It grew gradually as data accumulated. It felt like normal growth. Nobody went back to ask whether data from 2021 and 2022 logs, historical reports, archived patient records that had not been accessed in 18 months should still be in standard storage at $0.03 per GB. Glacier instant retrieval costs $0.004 per GB. On 50 terabytes of cold data, that is the difference between $11,050 per month and $200 per month. The anchor, the original storage cost, made the $950 monthly difference invisible. The fix, add a lifecycle policy to every S3 bucket that moves objects to Glacier instant retrieval. After 90 days of no access, it is a 10-minute configuration that runs automatically forever. Number 8, the engineering culture anchored to performance, not cost. This one is different from the others because it is not a configuration problem. It is a culture problem, and it is the most expensive anchor of all. At most startups, the first metrics engineer ever tracked were latency, uptime, and error rates. Those became the anchor for what good engineering looks like. Cost per API call, cost per user, and cost per workflow were never added to the dashboard. So engineers optimize for what they measure. They build APIs that are fast. They provision infrastructure that does not go down. They write code that handles load. And because cost was never the anchor, was never the first thing they were evaluated on, it never became part of the definition of good engineering at that company. They fixed add 3 cost metrics to every engineering dashboard. Cost per active user, cost per API call, cost per core workflow. When engineers see these numbers along latency and uptime, cost becomes part of the definition of quality. The anchor shifts and the decision that follows with it. Now you know the 8 ways anchoring bias is quietly controlling your AWS bill. The anchor is always the first number, the fix is always the same. Stop measuring your bill against what you paid last month and start measuring it against what your workload actually needs today. That single shift in reference point consistently surfaces 20 to 35% in recoverable spend. In the next video, I'm going to show you how social proof makes engineering teams provision infrastructure the way everyone else does, even when everyone else is wrong. Click that subscribe now so you do not miss it, and follow me on LinkedIn. I post one cloud cost breakdown every single day specifically for digital health founders, CTOs and engineers. The link is in the description below. See you in the next one.